Hi, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to speak. Kind of building on maybe the previous presenter, because we are the second assessment that is a large scale in South Africa. After the NSC, we are much smaller, but we are there. We are still in the game. So what I would like to discuss, and I'm not offering any study, any solutions or anything, what I would like to put on the table is how can we find different, same, other indicators from national benchmark testing mathematics instrument that could allow for that differentiated student support. What is it that we are already doing and what it is that we are not doing yet? Something comes to mind from 2023 where Neil Eddy actually asked, what is it that we are not doing or what is it that we are doing too much of? So this is more or less along those lines. So our assessment landscape in South Africa, we have the data from National Senior Certificate and we have the data from National Benchmark Testing, and they both provide some insights into incoming first-year students' academic profiles, and they could help designing the student support and any other curriculum augmentations or any information. Assessment is there to communicate something. And what is that something? What is that information that assessments can communicate? NBT, as you know, those of you who are in South Africa are focusing on 3 domains. There is academic literacy, quantitative literacy. Those 2 domains are not explicitly taught at university. They just feature in all the other subjects. And mathematics, that is more closely aligned with NSC mathematics. And usually maths is only taken by those students who are aiming for mathematically demanding disciplines such as engineering, health sciences, commerce. They're not taken by all students across the country, and not all universities are using NBT data anymore. But what we do know, what we do suspect, and it's not us as NBT, is that few universities use these assessments to actually harvest the data and systematically determine which students need what kind of support. Because there is no such framework that is across the country that is using the data, specific data, to put the 2 and 2 together and develop the support that would target students' abilities. What we do have, and luckily on this big screen, you can see how much data is there. But data does not speak by itself. Data cannot tell us anything. We can look at numbers, we can make some inferences, but unless we know what it is that we're looking within that data, we actually just having it. It's there. We have lots of people who are students, potential students who have written NBT. We have mathematics writers that over the years remain pretty stable. 70% of all NBT writers write mathematics. We had a dip, obviously, around the COVID, but generally up in 2026 intake for this intake at 80% of all writers writing mathematics. Those are large numbers, and when Alison speaks about numbers, she speaks in millions, obviously, from Alex. We have large enough data set to study, to understand what indicators are there, but we only can use so much without the collaboration within the sector. So just to briefly, not to waste too much time, the purpose of NBT mathematics tests are explicitly designed to probe higher education competencies, such as depth of understanding and knowledge that is relevant to mathematically demanding disciplines within the context of the NSC curriculum. So it is not to replicate the NSC curriculum, it is to supplement the information, probe it differently. And to that extent, I don't really need to, but just maybe for context, it is 3 hours long. It is MCQ questions. There's 60 of them. and they expected, they are reported as a percentage of 100, and then further divided into 5 subdomains, on which we also try to report, especially at UCT level, for further diagnostics and interpretations. So what do we know? We know that the students quite often say NBTs are not difficult, but the way they ask questions and ... It could be continued because they are different, and you'll see that picture in the middle. Will you please tell the rest of the class the process you use to arrive at your answers? I'm specifically thinking mathematical thinking workshops. That's exactly what happens there, because no one gives you any answers. They only ask you, I explain now. But explain now is not what many of the school exit learners are familiar with. They just look for the answer, right? What we know is that NBT data reflects the intention. On the right-hand side, that graph tells you how many intended faculty, not how many, but actually what is the performance of those who want to go and study law. And what is the performance of those who want to go and study education? Is that also disconnect between their perceived competency, right? They believe that they can go and study, I don't know, something, let's pick law. But mathematics is 63% of those writers who wrote mathematics are at basic level. So that is a bit of a disconnect. And interesting, in relation to mathematics, quantitative literacy and mathematics are following the similar pattern over the years. It hardly changed. It's always the majority in basic and goes down to the proficient, hand in hand. And what we also know is that, this is just an example, that within the NSC levels, you also have a varied distribution of scores in NBT mathematics. It goes better, stronger in terms of the levels. NSC levels, by the 7, you have more than, I think, 60% who are proficient. Okay, so all this information does exist, and UCT, I think from 2022, started putting these numbers in conversation, at least some kind of conversation, right? So know your students, know your course reports that have 5 pages and now are widely accessible by all course conveners through our internal systems. They have 2 pages that are dedicated to NSC and NBT indicators. NBT generally over 5 years, and you have the results for a specific course that tells you who are your students in front of you, how well did they do in NBTs. It, on the right-hand side, that page breaks it down into subdomains that I mentioned, including the mathematics, and that colorful graph is what makes us now, where we are with NBTs, think, what else can we do with this kind of information? It is 3-year average relative importance in relation to the course the students are taking. So it is what we call multi-regression analysis, where there is the control taken for the trying to disintegrate the highly correlated variables within that sample. And what we have is an indication of the top influences for explaining the difference in the course performance. So that page tells you that up to 30, it's a sample. I'm not guaranteeing that 35% of the course variance results is explained by NBTs, but it is just an indication, just to tell you what it is that UCT is doing. So if we now take those 5 top ones, top skills or top subdomains, we can translate them into support, right? Into in-course support. Now, first of all, the curricula are different within the course, and the indicators, the order of those predictors would be also different. So if we take the top 5, we translate them into a support or transitional curriculum, then we can offer students who are coming into the course with varied levels of abilities to play within those most impactful skills. And this is what we tried to do with Alex 2 years ago, just to illustrate one model. If we know what impacts your course performance, can we build something around it? And that's what we did. Then the other question that I am posing today is what else? Okay, what other dimensions that we can report on? We can look at different groupings of subdomains. We can look at algebraic numeric reasoning together. We can look at the functions. We can look at geometric reasoning, trigonometry. Will it hold? Can we create our own pie and look at the students' performance within the course, within a cohort, and see how important those ones are for your success in a course. We can also look at proficiency benchmarks for a specific cohort of students. We can look at the two different dimensions if we slice it into maybe procedural and the other dimension of mathematics. So other things are possible, which we're not doing yet, but they are possible. Then what else do we know? We know that where NBT sits is in that gap, right? We are on kind of between the high school and the university. So we're in the middle, which makes us think that we should be informing both. Not only informing the higher education and what kind of students are coming in, but also informing the basic education and telling them, well, we know not all of the students are coming into higher education, but those who do want to come, can we help them? Can we tell them something useful? Can they build those very skills in academic literacy, quantitative literacy, and mathematics that are required by their higher education? And those you can build through the subjects that you take. There's an interesting spider diagram. It's very small, but it's basically connecting the NBT domains to other subjects. Because let's say we built this, are you on academic pathways? And I built it with a lovable AI, so it's fine, it works, but only works as a proof of concept. Let's say you are taking English home language, you're taking physical science, history, and who knows what else you're taking. These are your subjects, but we are claiming that you can develop academic literacy skills through those subjects. So can we do that? Can we help those learners who do want to come to university, who do want to come to us, to start building those? Okay, I'm not going to show you how it works, but it is an idea. So my questions here are the missing piece. Very few universities systematically use diagnostic assessment to understand what support students will need to succeed and whether the institution can provide it, because there is also that other piece. Okay, now that we know what support is needed, can we actually provide it? Do we have the capacity? Is ADP large enough? Are there enough lecturers who can help them? Are there enough tutors? That's also something that needs to be understood. We would like to shift from assessment of students to assessment for students. In my wild dream, I would like to see the student wanting to take the assessment. I would like the student to want to do it so they know where they are and to do something with it. I would like information from the assessment to become accessible. When is the right time for students to acquire academic literacies? Is it only when they come? Or was it all those 12 years of schooling? Was it 12 years of schooling only to acquire knowledge that is set in a curriculum, and now we need to acquire a different set of skills that we didn't acquire for university? Also questions. And I'm not doing the provocation yet. What other indicators could be derived from assessment data that we do have? Very much so like to see the NSC and NBT data, those two that are there to develop those indicators or to design those indicators. These ideas and questions point in my mind towards collaborations across the sector and beyond higher education to translate data into actionable projects that benefit students. That's end of my